The classic private booth, the classic half-open door, the classic loud scheming. I stood outside the booth. Looks like it's my turn to live out the angsty male lead trope. My wealthy girlfriend's best friend asked when she'd finally break up with me. After all, her childhood sweetheart was coming back from abroad. But things didn't go the way I expected. The childhood sweetheart showed up right in front of me, spouting that faux innocent passive-aggressive nonsense. Before I could even fire back, my girlfriend got mad first. To hell with your childhood sweetheart, your precious first love. Who do you think I am? I'd never agree to some arranged marriage with you, but you were just complaining about him earlier. My girlfriend rolled her eyes. It's called couple banter. Do you even get it? That night she was unusually forward. Yeah, my girlfriend is a total tsundere. She complains about me nonstop with her mouth, but her body never lies. I stood at the booth door. I was still holding the milk tea Jung Lee had asked me to pick up on the way. She'd texted me half an hour earlier. Come pick me up. You've got 30 minutes. Classic rich girl tone. But I stopped dead the second I reached the door. It wasn't closed all the way. There was a crack, and the voices inside carried out perfectly clear. I went quiet for 2 seconds. This scene, didn't this feel familiar? My girlfriend asks me to pick her up. The booth door is left ajar, and the people inside are having their classic loud secret talk. I was completely done for. Countless cliché angsty romance short stories flashed through my mind. Damn it. This was the textbook opening of an angsty tragedy, wasn't it? Was the next line gonna be something like, I never really loved him. He's just a replacement. The one I actually love is coming back soon. All those classic lines. A bad feeling settled in my stomach. No way. There's no way I'm the male lead of some messed up angsty novel, right? At the thought, I couldn't help glancing down at myself. Average family background. Exceptionally capable. Loved by a wealthy heiress. Oh my god. This was exactly the script. I really didn't want to play this part. Also, could you guys just get to the point already? Can't I just skip to the good part? Standing out here eavesdropping feels kinda wrong. I was still hesitating when a girl inside laughed and spoke up. Lily, when are you gonna break up with Shen Yi? The air went still. I froze outside the door too. There it is. The classic line, right on schedule. I silently looked up at the ceiling. Come on, universe. You're actually doing this? No one said a word inside the booth. A few seconds passed. Then Jiang Li's voice drifted out, slow and casual. Why would I break up with him? The girl didn't seem to pick up on the mood. She waved a hand and said, Isn't Qin Hao coming back soon? You two were so close back then. Now that his exchange program is over and he's back, you can't still be dating Shen Yi, right? Qin Hao? I blinked outside the door. I knew that name. The young master of the Qin family. One of the wealthiest, most prominent families in Zhangcheng. The two families got along well, so, childhood sweethearts basically? Yep, that checks out. Childhood sweetheart. Back from studying abroad. Wealthy heir. Every single box on the angsty romance trope list was ticked. I could already picture the rest of the plot. Qin Hao comes back. The female lead falls for him again. I step aside quietly. We run into each other at the airport years later. She'll say with red eyes, Shen Yi, I regret it. And I'll say, sorry, I already found the perfect second female lead who's better than you and has had a crush on me for 10 years. I was about to keep listening when a voice spoke up beside me. Excuse me, sir. Coming through, I turned around. A waiter was standing there with a food cart, looking at me politely. Me, double quotes, oh no. I couldn't just keep blocking the door, could I? The waiter already reached for the door handle. I had no choice but to follow him inside. The booth door swung open. Every pair of eyes inside turned to look at us at once. The booth that had been loud and lively just a second ago went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. I acted like I hadn't heard a thing, smiled and lifted the milk tea in my hand. Hope I'm not late? Jiang Li sat in the middle of the group, in a flowing white dress, her long hair falling over her shoulders. When she saw me, her beautiful eyes crinkled slightly. It's already been 40 minutes. What took you so long? Had to wait in line for your drink. I walked over to her naturally and set the milk tea down beside her. Half sugar, just how you like it. She hummed softly, stuck in the straw and took a sip. I'll let you off the hook this time. As she spoke, she leaned into my side. That dark cloud hanging over me lifted a little, for no real reason. Jiang Li and I walked out of the booth together. The night breeze blew past, finally clearing away some of the alcohol fumes from inside. She held my hand the whole time. Her fingers were soft, but her grip was tight. We walked a dozen or so steps, when she suddenly spoke up. Shen Yi. She didn't turn around, just asked casually like it was nothing. Did you hear anything back there? My heart skipped a beat. There it is. The ultimate trap question. But I didn't let a single thing show on my face. I asked, confused. Hear what? Were you guys talking about something secret? Jiang Li paused for a second, glanced sidelong at me, like she was trying to catch me in a lie. I did my best to look completely clueless. A few seconds later, she huffed softly. Fine if you didn't. Stop asking so many questions. With that, she kept walking. Classic Sundar rich girl. We kept walking. Jiang Li suddenly swung our joined hands. Shen Yi. What now? If you remembered to get ice in my drink, you should know why I asked you to come pick me up, right? I nodded seriously. Of course I know. It is not safe for you to walk alone at night. The air went quiet for 2 seconds. Jiang Li slowly stopped walking. I stopped too. She lifted her head, her beautiful eyes locking right onto mine. Shen Yi. I'll give you one more chance to get it right. I couldn't hold back a laugh anymore. I leaned down a little closer to her, my voice warm with amusement. Got it. I'll take good care of you tonight. The second the words left my mouth, Jiang Li froze completely. The next second, her fair face flushed bright red right before my eyes. Shen Yi. She stamped her foot in embarrassment. Why did you say it so loud? That's when I realized there weren't many people around, but a few students had glanced over instinctively. A couple even had that I see what's going on here smirk on their faces. I put on an innocent look. You told me to answer, didn't you? You. Jiang Li opened her mouth, but couldn't think of a single thing to say back. Finally, ears burning, she grabbed my hand. Let's go. This is so embarrassing. She practically dragged me into a jog. I held back my laughter as I followed. She loved teasing people but couldn't take it herself. 10 minutes later, we got back to the apartment near campus. It was sort of our secret base, the real one. Close to school, nice surroundings, and most importantly, no one would bother us. Of course, I definitely didn't buy this place. With the real estate prices around here, if it weren't for Jiang Li, I could work my whole life and probably only afford a living room. The second the door clicked shut, Jiang Li kicked off her heels and relaxed completely. I'm gonna take a shower first. With that, she grabbed her pajamas and headed into the bathroom. Not long after, the sound of running water came from inside. I sat on the couch zoning out for a while, but my mind kept replaying everything I'd heard in the booth tonight. Chin Hao, back from abroad, childhood sweetheart. Those words poked at me like tiny thorns. It'd be a lie to say it didn't bother me. But then I thought about how she'd held my hand the whole way here, and how embarrassed she'd gotten over one stupid joke. And I wondered if I was overthinking all of this. 20 minutes later, the bathroom door opened. Jiang Li leaned out, wearing a loose nightgown, her hair still damp, and looked over at me. Shen Yi, what are you still sitting there for? Hurry up! I looked up at her and smiled helplessly. This young lady today. Why was she being so forward? Could it be because of what was said in the booth? Or did she have something she wanted to tell me? I stood up and walked toward the bathroom. I hoped it was just my imagination running wild. After everything was said and done, Jiang Li had fallen asleep. She was curled up on her side, tucked into my arms, her breathing steady and even, her lashes fluttering softly. She was sleeping soundly. I looked down at her and brushed a strand of hair off her forehead, tucking it behind her ear. To be honest, I couldn't blame myself for overthinking. The gap between Jiang Li and me, It was pretty big. My family was from a small county town. My parents were just regular working people. If this were some other country, I probably never would have met her in my whole life. But the good thing was, this was China. I'd gotten into this top university through the college entrance exam. And it was here that I first saw Zhang Li. The night before classes started, at our first class meeting, she'd worn a flowing white dress, long hair over her shoulders. Practically every guy in the class couldn't take their eyes off her. Of course, I'd glanced at her too, but I'd quickly looked back down at my class schedule. After all, looking was fine. Girls like her were from a completely different world than me. My whole freshman year, Zhang Li and I barely spoke 2 words to each other. At most we'd nod when we passed each other. Until sophomore year, we had a major lab class together. The teacher assigned groups randomly. Zhang Li and I ended up in the same group. I was pretty nervous back then. Lab work counted for a huge part of our grade. I was genuinely worried this rich girl wouldn't know how to do the experiments. But after the first day of lab, I realized she really had no clue what she was doing. She'd stared at the equipment forever, trying to figure it out. Finally she frowned and looked over at me. "Shen Yi, why won't this suction thing work?" I took it from her and glanced at it. I went silent. "You didn't put on the pipette tip." She was quiet for a full 5 seconds. Then the tips of her ears turned pink. And she said completely deadpan, "I was testing you." I almost lost it laughing. After that, we talked more and more. We did lab work together, discussed our major classes together, studied in the library together. Then, at some point, she started sitting next to me every day with her books. When people asked if the seat was taken, she'd always answer before I could. "Taken?" I asked her about it once. "Says who?" She put on a perfectly deadpan face. I said, "Someone's sitting here, so someone is." Stop asking so many questions. And then eventually, she became my girlfriend. The whole thing went so smoothly it still feels a little unreal to me even now. Once we started dating, she was still the same tsundere rich girl she'd always been, complaining about me every day with her mouth. "Shen Yi, how can you be this slow? Shen Yi, you're so annoying. Shen Yi, get away from me." But for all her complaining, she waited for me to walk to class together every single morning. She remembered exactly which milk tea shop I liked best. She'd nag me to put on more clothes before the temperature dropped. And when I pulled all-nighters writing papers, she'd stay up right there with me. Once we hit senior year, we moved into an apartment off campus. Started living together. Everything couples do, and everything they maybe shouldn't. We'd done pretty much all of it. But there was always this little knot of unease in my chest. Because Zhang Li almost never said she liked me, let alone that she loved me. She always carried herself like she was above everything, and spent every day complaining about me. And on top of that, she was the young mistress of the Jiang family, one of the wealthiest, most prominent families in Zhengcheng. Could a girl like her really ever fall for a nobody from a small town like me? At the thought, I glanced down at Zhang Li in my arms. She was so quiet when she slept. Nothing like the stubborn, sharp-tongued little princess she was when awake. She nuzzled closer into my chest on instinct, and mumbled something soft under her breath. "Shen Yi ... I answered quietly. "I'm here." She didn't wake up, just held onto my waist a little tighter. I sighed softly. If it weren't for her family background, if I hadn't heard all that tonight, I never would have overthought things this much. But now, wealthy family friends, childhood sweethearts, back from studying abroad. Every single one of those tropes felt like a reminder. This was exactly the setup of every angsty tragedy on those novel apps. After that, days went by, and nothing happened. I even started to wonder if I'd been overthinking everything. So Chinhao was coming back from abroad. That didn't mean he was here to steal my girlfriend. And besides, Zhang Li was exactly the same as always these days, complaining about me nonstop, but clinging to me just as much in practice, showing up at the apartment every night like clockwork, waiting for me to go to the lab together every morning. Slowly I pushed what had happened in the booth to the back of my mind. My supervisor had taken on a new project recently. Piles and piles of experimental data. I was swamped, running around non-stop. Every day was just the lab and the library. My head was full of nothing but papers and figures. Until one afternoon, I just walked out of the lab building, when a man in a suit suddenly stepped in front of me. He was handsome enough, had a decent air about him, but still, wearing a full suit on a university campus. Wasn't that a little much? He looked me up and down, and spoke slowly. "You're Lily's boyfriend?" I nodded. "That's me." "And you are?" The corner of the man's mouth tugged up into a smug, knowing smile. "Allow me to introduce myself. Chin Hao." He slid his hands into his pockets, and said perfectly calm, "Her childhood sweetheart. And the one she's never gotten over. Her first love." Me ... double quotes. Wait, dude. I just stood there completely stunned. That line. Was it not just a little too on the nose? And it felt so much like a generic NPC line. In real life, did people actually introduce themselves by saying, "Hi, I'm the one she's never forgotten, her first love"? I went quiet for 2 seconds, and finally couldn't help myself. I asked, genuinely confused. Do people actually read those short drama stories abroad too?" Chin Hao frowned slightly. Clearly he had no idea what I was talking about, and had no intention of asking. He just kept going right on script. "I'm back now. You're just a stand-in. It's time you stepped aside." Me ... Chin Hao looked at me, his tone still perfectly even. "You must know it too. You're not good enough for her. The Jung family is way out of your league, someone with your background. If I were you, I'd walk away now on my own terms. At least you'd leave with a little dignity." With that, he didn't even wait for a response. Turned around and left, leaving me standing there alone. I let out a long, slow breath. Unreal. That was next level, seriously. To deliver all that with a straight face. I swear I'd max out Zia and anoint you a legend right now. If this guy wanted to get famous, he should just go act in those short web dramas. He'd be a natural. I headed back to the apartment near campus. Jung Lee was on the couch scrolling through her phone. The second she saw me walk in, she looked over. "Wash your hands. Dinner's almost ready." I took off my shoes and watched her back as she walked into the kitchen. And it hit me. Some things were better just asked straight out. I'd been overthinking this for long enough. Before he hadn't been back yet, but now he'd showed up right in front of me. I needed to know where Jiang Li stood. So I walked to the kitchen doorway, leaned against the frame. "Jiang Li, Just now, Chin Hao came to find me. Inside the kitchen. Jiang Li was bent over, taking dish after dish out of the insulated food containers. They'd all just been delivered by the family chef. She thought the campus cafeteria was unhealthy, so she had meals sent over almost every single day. When she heard what I said, her hand froze mid-motion. The air went still for 2 seconds. She didn't turn around, just asked softly, "What did he want?" I thought about it. Figured there was no point hiding anything. So I told her everything that had just happened, word for word, including that line. "I'm the one she's never gotten over, her first love." And that other line, "You're just a stand-in. It's time you stepped aside." I repeated every single word exactly as he'd said them. After I finished, I couldn't help adding, "Honestly, it's a waste he's not acting in those short dramas. Guy's a natural." But Jiang Li didn't laugh. She just stood there quietly, silent for a long time. Then, she turned around slowly, and looked right at me. "What about you?" I blinked, caught off guard. "What about me? What do you think?" She held my gaze, her voice soft. "Do you also think that you're not good enough for me? That you're gonna walk away?" She tossed the question right back at me. I went quiet all at once. Not good enough. That question, I'd thought about it so many times. Ever since I first met her, I just never had the courage to say it out loud. Seeing me go silent, Jiang Li huffed softly, set down her chopsticks, and walked toward me step by step, stopped right in front of me, and looked up at me. "Shen Yi, you're usually so quick with your words. Why so quiet now?" I took a deep breath. We'd come this far. Might as well say everything I had to say. Whether I'm good enough or not. I have thought about it. And I don't exactly have a lot of confidence about it. But, what matters more to me is what you think. I looked right at her. And finally said the words I'd been holding in for so long. Jiang Li, I love you, but I need to know, do you love me? The room went completely still. Jiang Li stared at me, stunned. Like she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. The next second, her brows furrowed, and her eyes slowly welled up with redness. Shen Yi, you're asking me if I love you? She bit down on her lip, her voice starting to shake. You idiot, how can you even ask me that? The more she spoke, the more upset she sounded. Her eyes rimmed bright red. If I didn't love you, would I be living with you? If I didn't love you, would I be sleeping in your bed? If I didn't love you, would I wait for you to go to class every single day? She went on one line after another, her eyes getting redder and redder, until finally she shoved me hard in the chest. Shen Yi, did all your brain cells go into your lab work? How can you even have to ask me that? I just stood there frozen. I'd never seen Jiang Li like this before. The proud, stubborn, sharp-tongued young mistress I knew, standing there with red-rimmed eyes, like I'd actually genuinely hurt her. She sniffled, glared up at me, her voice thick with tears. I'm giving you one last chance to fix what you just said. Don't let me down. I looked at Jiang Li, her eyes glistening, and suddenly I felt like the worst person alive. She'd shown me time and time again how she felt, and I'd still doubted her. Love wasn't about the words after all. It was about the things you did. At the thought, I didn't try to explain anymore. Just stepped forward and cupped her face gently in my hands. Jiang Li froze for a second. Shen. She didn't get to finish the word. I'd already leaned down and kissed her. Her body went stiff for a moment. A few seconds later, she squirmed a little, then slowly relaxed, wrapped her arms around my waist, and kissed me back. I don't know how long passed before I finally pulled back slowly, my forehead resting against hers. I whispered, I'm sorry, this was all my fault. I let my thoughts run away with me. I won't do it again. Jiang Li didn't say anything, just huffed softly. No, you messed up? What did you do wrong? Everything. She couldn't hold it back anymore. The corner of her mouth tugged up into a tiny smile. Idiot. With that, she wrapped her arms around me gently, her voice muffled against my chest. Don't ever ask me something like that again. Okay. And don't doubt me. Okay. And don't believe what other people say. Okay. Hearing me say okay 3 times in a row, she nodded, satisfied. Looked like she really wasn't mad anymore. Half an hour later, Jiang Li and I sat back down at the dining table. The food that had been warm earlier had been reheated all over again. I was shoveling rice into my mouth when Jiang Li spoke up suddenly. So, that day outside the booth, you heard everything, didn't you? My hand froze mid-bite. I nodded obediently. Heard. Some of it. Jiang Li pressed a hand to her forehead, exasperated. That's why you've been overthinking this whole time? Maham. Double quotes. She took a deep breath, like she was fighting to keep her temper. Finally she picked up her phone. I can't believe this. With that, she dialed the number straight away. It was answered almost instantly. Hello, Lily. The voice on the other end sounded a little guilty. Jiang Li's face was deadpan. Explain. The line went quiet for 2 seconds. Then a dramatic wailing voice came from the other end of the line. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. The others already chewed me out nonstop. They said I run my mouth the second I have a drink. That I have zero sense of what not to say. I sat off to the side, listening intently without a word. The voice on the line went on, I swear, I really didn't mean it. I just speak my mind, that's all. I really thought you couldn't stand Shen Yi, the way you complain about him all the time. I thought you didn't actually like him. How was I supposed to know it's just your Sundar couple act? The others were just sitting there enjoying the show. I was the only idiot who believed it. She said she'd come over in person to apologize properly. I almost burst out laughing. Jiang Li said irritably, Save the apologies. Just drink less when you go out. Keep your foot out of your mouth for once. She hung up the phone, set it down, and looked over at me. Happy now? I nodded. She sighed softly. Happy now? I nodded. She sighed softly. And about Chin Hao, I've known him since we were kids, that's true. Our families have been close for generations. We saw each other a lot when we were little. But knowing someone is one thing. Who says growing up together makes us childhood sweethearts? I never had many friends growing up. Besides, I've never liked him. He acts like he knows everything and has to control everything. He's so full of himself. He's so annoying. As I listened, a thought slipped out before I could stop it. So it's the childhood rivals script, huh? Double quotes. Jiang Li lifted her head slowly and narrowed her eyes at me. Shen Yi. Give me your phone. I handed it to her on instinct. What's wrong? She unlocked my phone easily, tapped the screen a few times quickly, then handed it back. I looked down and froze. The novel app was gone. I looked up stunned. You uninstalled it? Jiang Li crossed her arms and huffed. Stop reading so much of that garbage. It's rotting your brain. All those angsty stories, first love, stand-ins. Keep reading that stuff, and next you'll be imagining me groveling to win you back, won't you? Me. Come to think of it, I actually had imagined that. One look at my guilty face, and she guessed it right away. She huffed a laugh, half annoyed, and poked me on the forehead. Shen Yi. From now on, use half your brain for your lab work and the other half for loving me. No more room for this nonsense. Got it? After hearing everything Jiang Li had to say about Chin Hao, the weight in my chest finally lifted completely. So that was it. This so-called childhood sweetheart stuff really just meant they'd known each other as kids. After that, they'd gone to different middle schools, high schools, colleges. Put plainly, other than the occasional family gathering on holidays, they barely even talked the rest of the time. I couldn't help sighing. And he still called himself your first love. Jiang Li rolled her eyes. First love? He really thinks highly of himself, doesn't he? When did he become my first love? News to me. At that she huffed softly. There's no such thing as some perfect, untouchable first love in real life. That's just stuff from novels. Everyone has good sides and bad sides. That's how people are. No one's perfect. As she spoke, she suddenly looked up at me. Shen Yi. I know I can be stubborn with my words sometimes. I don't always say nice things. I know that about myself, but when have I ever actually thought less of you? I thought about it carefully. Come to think of it, She never had, not really. She might tease me and complain all day, but her actions always said the opposite. She'd complain that I lose track of time in the lab, saying things like, Shen Yi, are you planning to move into the lab? Can you feed yourself just staring at all that data? But even as she said it, she'd set an insulated food container down next to me. Eat first. Keep working after. She'd complain that my clothes were frumpy, look me up and down, frown and say from now on, your outfits, you don't get to pick them. You'll do exactly what I say. That very night she dragged me to the mall and bought me everything, from coats to shoes, a whole pile of new clothes. I'd stared at the price tags, my heart aching, but she'd just said casually, put it on my card. Besides, you'll be wearing them for me anyway. And in winter she'd always nag me for not taking care of myself. Every time the temperature dropped, she'd tuck a scarf into my arms ahead of time. And add, sharp-tongued as ever, don't get the wrong idea. I just don't want my boyfriend getting sick and giving me his cold. Thinking back on it all, I smiled softly. Jiang Li was right. She might have a sharp tongue, but she'd never once thought less of me. I reached out and pulled her close, holding her gently in my arms. All right then, tell me, what are my good and bad points? Jiang Li leaned against my chest, pretending to think it over seriously. After a few seconds, she spoke slowly. Good points. Well, there are a few. Of course there are. Like you do what I say. You put up with me. And She lifted her head and looked at me, a small smile on her lips. You love me. Hearing those two words, something soft bumped against my chest. She rarely said things that straightforward, but when she did, They hit harder than any sweet line in the world. I smiled and asked, what about the bad points? Jiang Li huffed softly, held up one finger and tapped me on the chest. Bad points. I'd never finish listing them all in one night. She blinked and said, completely deadpan, I'll spend the rest of my life listing them. I laughed and held her tighter. All right, I'll listen for the rest of my life. The corner of Jiang Li's mouth tugged up. She buried her face in my chest, her voice so soft I could barely hear it. That's more like it. Outside the window, the night grew deeper, but inside the room all was quiet but the sound of each other's breathing. In that moment, I suddenly realized all that talk of first loves, of stand-ins, of tragic storylines, none of it felt as real as the sharp-tongued, soft-hearted girl in my arms. She never said I love you out loud all the time, but every little thing she did told me she'd given me the answer a long time ago. The next morning, Jiang Li and I headed to the lab as usual. On the way, she suddenly turned to look at me. Shen Yi. How's the project going? I blinked, surprised, and answered simply. The main work is done. We just have one last set of data to verify. If it checks out, we can wrap it up next week. After I said that, I couldn't help looking over at her. Since when do you care about my project? Jiang Li looked at me like it was obvious. Of course I care. I already sent your project to my dad. Me. Wait. Sent it to who? Jiang Li went on. I sent it a while ago. He read it and said it was really interesting. He also said if you're free this week, I should bring you home for the family dinner. We can talk about you joining the company too. Me. It was too much to take in all at once. I didn't know which part to process first. A family dinner? Joining the Zheng group? And Uncle Zheng had already seen my project? Seeing me standing there frozen, Jiang Li walked over and fixed the collar of my shirt for me. The motion so natural it was like she'd done it 1,000 times. What? It's not like you've never met my dad before. Are you still nervous? I gave a bitter smile. It's not the same thing. Before it was at school. This is going to your house. Jiang Chenggu, the richest man in Jiangcheng. Chairman of the Zheng Group, a legend who'd built the company into what it is today almost single-handedly. A regular in financial news, an idol to countless young entrepreneurs. And also Jiang Li's father. He'd come to the school sometimes to visit the labs or attend academic events. I'd talked to him plenty of times. But that was nothing like a family dinner. At the thought, I swallowed hard. Your dad isn't gonna put me through some test, is he? Jiang Li snickered. Relax. The most he'll do is ask about your project. He's not gonna eat you. Besides, she reached out and laced her fingers through mine. He sings your praises every time he sees you. What are you so worried about? I paused. Now that I thought about it, it was true, especially when they talked about our field. I'd always just assumed it was just an elder being impressed by a younger generation. But now it seemed it was more than that. If he was inviting me to a family dinner and talking about me joining the company, did that mean he already approved of me? At the thought, I suddenly felt the pressure of that dinner just skyrocket. Soon enough, the weekend arrived. In the evening, I wore the suit Jiang Li had picked out for me herself, and stood in front of the mirror, taking a deep breath. Jiang Li stood next to me, looked me up and down, and nodded with satisfaction. Not bad. You finally look like my boyfriend. I smiled helplessly. So I didn't before? Before? Jiang Li thought about it seriously. You looked like a new grad getting ready for a job interview. Me. Double quotes, fair enough. At least I'd leveled up today. Half an hour later, the car pulled slowly into the Zheng family estate. As soon as I got out, I was stunned by the sight before me. Lights blazed everywhere, guests filled the grounds. Everyone who passed was dressed in formal suits and gowns, every face wearing a perfect, polite smile. Jiang Li slipped her arm through mine easily, and said softly, "Don't be nervous. Just stick with me." I nodded and walked into the hall with her. All the way in, people kept greeting Jiang Li, and others gave me curious, assessing looks. But Jiang Li never let go of my arm. If anything, she held on tighter. Just then, a familiar figure came into view. Qin Hao. He was wearing a black suit today, chatting and laughing with a group of elders. Every move he made was calm and effortless. I had to admit, at events like this, he was far more in his element than I was. After all, he'd grown up in this kind of world, all the banquets, the etiquette, the unspoken rules. It was practically second nature to him. I glanced at him on instinct and thought back to what Jiang Li had said before. She'd told me a lot of Chen Hao's polished, impressive resume was padded. Still, right now, standing here at this family banquet, he definitely looked far more at ease than I did at my first ever event like this. I was scanning the guests in the hall when an elder called Jiang Li over. Lily, come here for a second. Uncle Wang and the others have arrived. Okay, she replied, then turned back to me. Hang tight for a minute. Okay, I'll be right back. With that, she gave my hand a gentle squeeze before turning to walk away. I just picked up a glass of juice when someone walked over. It was Chen Hao. He still wore that calm, easy smile, but there was a sharp, sarcastic edge to it no matter how you looked at it. Well, you've got some nerve showing up to a place like this. I took a deep breath and answered calmly. You'd have to ask Uncle Jiang that. He's the one who invited me after all. Chen Hao's smile faltered for a split second, then settled back into place. Interesting. He swirled his wine glass slowly, the red wine spinning gently inside. But you look like you don't really know your way around events like this, do you? Want me to show you the ropes? I smiled and shook my head. No need to trouble yourself. Lily already went over everything I need to know with me last night. Chen Hao said nothing. He just kept swirling his wine, lost in thought. I watched him and my mind started wandering again. Wait. According to those short drama plots, isn't the next step spilling wine on me? Or maybe he'd jump into the swimming pool right next to us, then point at me and yell, "He pushed me!" I shook my head quickly to snap out of it. Stop it, Shen Yi. You uninstalled that novel app. Stop making stuff up. Just then, from the other side of the hall, a small group walked slowly toward us. Jiang Li, Zhang Chengyu, and a few other middle-aged men. I didn't recognize them, but judging by how everyone else acted around them, they must be key partners of the Zhang group. Chen Hao stepped forward to greet them at once, wearing a perfectly polite smile. Uncle Jiang, President Li, Chairman Zhou. The men nodded and smiled, exchanging a few quick pleasantries. But Zhang Chengyu's gaze had already landed on me. Shen Yi, come here. I walked over, a little nervous despite myself. Zhang Chengyu smiled. Lily sent me your project a few days ago. I read through it, very impressive. Especially that final optimization approach. What made you think to adjust it that way? As soon as the question turned to my field, I slipped into work mode on instinct. All my nervousness vanished in an instant. The biggest bottleneck with the traditional approach is that you can't optimize both cost and efficiency at the same time. So I tried a different angle. After restructuring the core algorithm, the initial computational load is higher, but long-term maintenance costs drop significantly. And, as I spoke, I pulled out my phone and drew a simple diagram to walk them through the whole concept. The partners had been listening politely at first, but gradually they leaned in, paying full attention. One even spoke up with a question. What if you scale it up? Will the advantages still hold? I nodded. Yes. You just have to adjust the parameters. That's the next set of data I plan to verify. The men exchanged looks and nodded approvingly. Impressive. Solid practical thinking. Not just empty theory. Off to the side, Chen Hao tried to steer the conversation his way, starting to analyze the future of the industry, global expansion, industrial upgrading, closed-loop ecosystems. One buzzword after another, all delivered smoothly. But the more he talked, the more it all sounded like castles in the air. Pretty, but with nothing solid to back it up. The CEOs who'd spent decades building their careers in business just listened and smiled, nodding occasionally. They didn't ask any follow-up questions. They could tell at a glance who actually knew what they were talking about, and who was just good with words. The smile on Zhang Chenggu's face grew warmer. He clapped me on the shoulder. Well done. For a young man, keeping your feet on the ground matters more than anything. With that, he turned and led Jiang Li and me toward the other side of the hall. All along the way, people greeted us. Zhang Chengyu made no attempt to keep things quiet. He introduced me openly. This is Lily's boyfriend Shen Yi, a very promising young man. I hope you'll all look out for him when you can. At his words, the nearby business owners paused for a moment, then their smiles grew warmer and more enthusiastic. I see. Chairman Jiang has always had an eye for talent. Brilliant young man. He'll go far. I responded politely, but inside my mind was reeling. Everyone else in the hall clearly understood what this meant too. For Jiang Chenggu to personally introduce me, and publicly acknowledge me as Zhang Li's boyfriend. This was more than just simple approval. This was him telling everyone, the Jiang family accepts you. After the banquet ended, guests began to leave one by one. I was about to leave with Jiang Li when Jiang Chengyu spoke up. Shen Yi, come to my study for a moment. I nodded. All right. Jiang Li moved to follow us, but Jiang Chengyu waved her off. I'd like to speak with him alone. Jiang Li frowned, glancing at me with worry. I smiled reassuringly at her, and she nodded slowly. Okay. I'll wait for you downstairs. In the study, Zhang Chengyu brewed a pot of tea and gestured for me to sit. The room was so quiet the only sound was the pouring water. He didn't beat around the bush. He got straight to the point. Shen Yi, I think very highly of you. Your professional skills, your work ethic, both are excellent. Your foundation is far more solid than that boy from the Qin family at the very least. I didn't speak. I just listened quietly. Zhang Chenggu picked up his teacup and blew gently on the steam. But there's one thing I want you to understand. He looked up, his gaze serious for the first time. Qin Hao started out far ahead of you. From the day he was born, the people he's met, the things he's seen, the resources he's had, none of it is something you can match right now. This isn't about ability. It's just reality. I nodded. I understand, Zhang Chengyu went on. The Zhang family doesn't need to use marriage to tie ourselves to anyone. At that, I breathed a quiet sigh of relief. But the next second his tone shifted. But if you don't live up to what I expect, I won't. Let her marry you. The study fell quiet again. I was silent for a few seconds, then nodded firmly. I understand. Zhang Chengyu looked at me and suddenly smiled. Do you know why I'm willing to tell you all this? I shook my head. Because I'm willing to give you a chance. There's no shame in coming from an ordinary background. The real shame is having an opportunity and being too afraid to take it. With that, he stood up, walked over to me, and clapped me gently on the shoulder. Go on. I've given you the platform. How far you go is up to you. Do well. Make something of yourself, and show me what you've got. I stood up and nodded solemnly. Uncle Jiang, I won't let you down. Zhang Chenggu waved a hand. All right, off you go. I walked out of the study. Sure enough, Jiang Li was waiting right outside. The second she saw me, she hurried over. How did it go? Did my dad scare you? I smiled and shook my head. No, we just talked about work. Jiang Li clearly didn't believe me. She gave me a skeptical look. Really? Really? Only then did she relax. She slipped her arm through mine easily. Come on. Let's go home. Looking at her open, trusting smile, I suddenly felt the weight on my shoulders grow heavier, but I also felt more motivated than ever. After they left, the study door opened again. A gentle, elegant middle-aged woman walked in. It was Zhang Li's mother. She looked at Zhang Chengyu, still sitting there with his teacup and a stern expression, and couldn't help smiling. All done? Zhang Chengyu nodded, still keeping up his chairman's authoritative air. A little push now and then is necessary. Madame Jiang sat down next to him and repeated his words with a smile. If you don't live up to what I expect, I won't let her marry you. Something like that, right? Zhang Chengyu cleared his throat. Something like that? Madame Jiang finally burst out laughing. With our little princess's temper? As if you could decide who she marries. Jiang Chengyu. He was silent for a few seconds, then muttered. Defensively, I just wanted to play the strict, caring father for once, that's all. Madame Jiang laughed so hard her shoulders shook softly. All right, all right. Zhang Chenggu's face flushed slightly. He picked up his teacup and pretended not to hear a thing. Madame Jiang shook her head with a smile and said softly, You really like that boy, don't you? Zhang Changyu was quiet for a moment, then a small smile tugged at his lips. Mihan. Much more likable than that Chin boy. Ever since the family banquet, my life had suddenly shifted into high gear. At school, my graduation thesis was entering its final stages, and my supervisor's new project was officially wrapping up. At the Jiang group, I'd already started working with the project team to get familiar with the business. Every day was either the lab or the office. I was running non-stop. Even Jiang Li couldn't help teasing me. Shen Yi, I swear you must have a clone. School during the day, the company at night. Do you sneak off to save the world at 3 a.m. too? I smiled and ruffled her hair. Gotta work hard if I'm gonna support the family, right? She scoffed. As if I need you to support me. But the tips of her ears turned pink. On the other side, Qin Hao was growing more and more restless. Ever since the family banquet. It should have been his home turf, the kind of event he knew like the back of his hand. But in the end, I'd stolen all the spotlight. Not only had he failed to get his pride back, he'd watched firsthand as Zheng Chengyu personally took me around to introduce me to every single partner. These past few days, I'd heard he'd been showing up at campus more and more often. As for why, everyone knew perfectly well. That afternoon, right after the lab ended, I just walked out of the college building when I spotted Jiang Li standing under a tree, surrounded by a few of her friends. I walked over with a smile and pulled a red string charm out of my backpack. Here. Jiang Li glanced down at it. What's this? A peace charm. I went to the temple yesterday to get it blessed. Jiang Li froze. But I thought you were working late at the company yesterday. I stopped by on my way home after work. I heard that temple's really efficacious, so I figured I'd get one for you. Jiang Li went quiet. She picked up the tiny charm, but her words were sharp with disapproval right away. Shen Yi, are you out of your mind? You worked that late yesterday, and you still went out of your way to climb all the way up that mountain? Do you have any idea how high up that temple is? Aren't your legs sore? Weren't you exhausted? Even as she spoke, she ran her fingers gently over the charm. The concern in her eyes was impossible to hide. Don't ever do that again. You hear me? I nodded with a smile. Okay. Whatever you say. Just then, a familiar voice called out. Lily. We both turned around at the same time. Qin Hao had walked over without us noticing. He was holding a huge bouquet of flowers. Dressed in a sharp suit, his hair clearly carefully styled. He looked exactly like the overbearing CEO, male lead out of a short web drama. He glanced at the peace charm in Jiang Li's hand, a faint smirk on his lips. People still give stuff like this these days? Seems a little cheap, doesn't it? He turned to look at me. Shen Yi. You don't win a girl over with trinkets like this. Did you really think a little red string would be enough to win Lily over? Before I could say a word, Zhang Li's expression darkened. Qin Hao, did you spend so many years abroad as an exchange student that you forgot how to read a room? Qin Hao froze. Jiang Li slipped the charm straight onto her wrist, held it up and gave it a little shake. My boyfriend gave this to me. Whether I like it or not has nothing to do with you. And besides, she stepped closer to me and slipped her arm through mine easily. I'm worried about him. He's so busy, and he still made time to go get a blessed charm for me. What would you know about that? She paused, then added in all seriousness. It's called couple banter. Couple banter. Do you get it? Qin Hao. The air went completely still. Off to the side, her straightforward best friend rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath. Clueless. The other girls. Wow, looks like the bottom of the food chain just changed hands. Even the most socially oblivious person around gets to look down on someone now. I stood off to the side, fighting hard not to laugh. Qin Hao's face was getting darker and darker by the second. But Jiang Li wasn't done yet. She turned to me and gave the charm on her wrist another little shake. Shen Yi. Next time you want one of these, don't go sneak off by yourself. If you're going, I'm coming with you. I nodded with a smile. Okay. Next time we'll go together. Qin Hao stood there holding his carefully prepared bouquet, frozen. For a long moment, he didn't know whether to give them to her or just walk away. 3 years flew by in the blink of an eye. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the night skyline of Zhongcheng glittered with lights. At the Zhong Group R&D Center, the office lights were still on. I set down the final project report and rubbed the space between my eyebrows gently. 3 years. Not all that long, not all that short. From a fresh graduate just joining the company, to leading major projects at the R&D Center on my own. I'd gotten here one step at a time. The office door suddenly pushed open, and a familiar figure peeked in. Director Shen. Still working? I looked up and couldn't help smiling. To what do I owe this inspection visit, Director Jiang? Jiang Li rolled her eyes at me. Don't be cheeky. She walked straight over, sat down on my lap like it was the most natural thing in the world, and wrapped her arms around my neck. I've got something funny to tell you. Oh, I saw Qin Hao again today. I blinked in surprise. Haven't seen him in ages. Is he still bothering you? Jiang Li shook her head. Not really. I've turned him down. So many times. Even he's got enough pride to take a hint. She snickered, her shoulders shaking a little. But I think he's switched to a different script now. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Jiang Li said, deadpan. Now he's doing that whole she runs, he chases, she can't escape no matter what routine with his secretary. It's hilarious. Me. She was on a roll now. Qin Hao was doing all the classic old-school overbearing CEO tropes now. The innocent secretary tripping over thin air, spilling coffee on important documents, that kind of thing. That's wild. Jiang Li laughed so hard she could barely sit up straight. Tell me about it. It hit me all of a sudden. Wait a second. How do you know all this stuff? Scripts, chase plots? Jiang Li put on a defiant look at once. Blame someone, that's why. She poked me in the chest. All you do is work, work, work these days. Company stuff, projects, R&D. Even when you get home you're reading documents. You never spend time with your poor lonely girlfriend. What else am I supposed to do besides watch short dramas? I felt a twinge of guilt. Come to think of it, I really hadn't been spending much time with her. I cleared my throat. Then come work at the company with me. That way you'd see me every single day. Jiang Li shook her head right away. No way, why not? She huffed. Why do you think I stuck with you in the first place? If I was working all day too, what would we even have to talk about? Would I be here for your good looks or for, you know? I teased her on purpose. Aren't you scared I'll take over the Jiang Group one day? The second the words left my mouth, Jiang Li reached over and tweaked my ear. You wouldn't dare. I held up my hands in surrender at once. I wouldn't. Never in a million years. Only then did she let go, looking satisfied, and huffed softly. Besides, my future father-in-law wasn't born yesterday. Back then he'd given me a platform, not a handout. Everything I'd achieved, I'd earned step by step on my own merits. What I'd always wanted to prove wasn't how high I could climb. It was how much I could build. At the thought, I smiled softly, reached down to the bottom drawer of my desk, and pulled out a small black box. Jiang Li froze. Is that? I took a deep breath and slowly opened the box. A ring lay inside, glinting softly in the office light. I looked right at her and spoke softly. Lily. I passed your dad's test. Will you marry me? The office fell completely silent. Jiang Li stared at me, stunned. Her eyes slowly reddened, but that familiar little smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. She sniffled and huffed softly. Shen Yi, you really are such a blockhead. I blinked, caught off guard. Huh. Her eyes glistening, she poked me gently on the forehead. Who proposes in an office? It's not romantic at all. You're punished. Find somewhere more surprising and do it again. I nodded with a helpless smile. Okay. Whatever you want. I was about to put the ring back when Jiang Li suddenly reached out and pressed her hand down on the box. But, she held her hand out to me. The tips of her ears were bright red, but she tilted her chin up, putting on her usual Sundar act. For now. Put it on me first. Later you can do the whole proper proposal again. This time, I'll tentatively say yes ahead of time. I couldn't help smiling. I picked up the ring and slipped it slowly onto her ring finger. It fit perfectly. Jiang Li stared down at the ring for a long, long time. Then finally, she couldn't hold back anymore, and leaned in to kiss me. Due to the gap in family background, plus gossip from others, and provocation from his girlfriend's childhood sweetheart, the hero Shen Yi, once fell into suspicion and inferiority about his relationship. But he eventually found that Jiang Li, his sharp-tongued and soon-to-wealthy girlfriend, never looked down on him because of social status. She had always given silently and chosen him firmly through actions. The two cleared up all misunderstandings through frank communication. The hero also won recognition from the woman's father with his excellent professional ability, and their mutual affection finally led to a happy ending. The story enlightens us that groundless suspicion and internal friction are the most harmful things to a relationship. Love should be valued by practical actions rather than words. Family status gap is never the real obstacle to love. Sincere affection and personal strength are the solidest confidence. Don't be disturbed by outside noise. Treat each other frankly, cherish one another, and love that goes both ways will eventually cross all barriers.